Welcome back. I'm Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. So today we might call it Forgiveness 2, because we talked about forgiveness in our last broadcast. We discussed the value of forgiving others, and I admitted that forgiveness is difficult. It seems to go against the way we're built, you know? We're built for revenge. An eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Our culture, I admit, seems to demand that we be that around the scenario of the hero who was beaten in the beginning rises up through trial and tribulation until he's strong enough to get his revenge in the end. It's over and over and over again we go through those stories. So I'm not criticizing you for thinking that way. It's normal in our world of constant media conditioning. I've even experienced that feeling myself, that primal emotion that vengeance is mine. I had a dream a couple of days ago where I hunted somebody down because of something they'd done to me. I don't even remember what it was. But I hunted them down and I killed them in a very violent fact, or I even roared at the end as I stood over the body. Wow. I have no idea what that dream was trying to tell me. I have to wait for further clarification from my higher self. But the point is that we are hardwired to seek revenge. So in this world, many people don't understand the need for forgiveness. They don't understand the need for it. Therefore, they don't accept it. They won't do it. And basically, they reject it. And that position is even stronger, I must admit, when it comes to forgiving ourselves. Forgiving ourselves. You know, last week in my discussion of forgiveness, I reminded you that recent research into the area of forgiveness, because research on forgiveness didn't start really until around 1996, when Dr. Fred Luskin created the Stanford University Forgiveness Project and started working with people from Ireland. During, you know, the IRA and the revolt in Ireland, he worked with some mothers from both sides because there was anger on both sides between the Catholics and the Protestants. So in 1996, he started to see what forgiveness would do, you know, and how it worked and what was the effect of unforgiveness. And so Dr. Luskin showed us through his book, Forgive for Love, he wrote about it. Forgive for Good. He's shown us that forgiveness is not about letting the other person off the hook. And that's why most people refuse to forgive, because they believe that what forgiveness is letting the other person off the hook. But actually letting the other person off the hook, that's not something you need to be concerned about as we rise in our consciousness to a state of spiritual awareness, of spiritual knowingness. When somebody does something, karma's going to take care of that. You know, in this life or in the next, they will pay for what they've done. That's just the way it is. It's not a matter of punishment, it's a matter of balance. Getting the balance right, getting everything balanced. The universe is a place of balance, of correctness. So, in our universe, our spiritual universe, what goes around comes around. So that perspective of recognizing karma is actually the first step in understanding the purpose of forgiveness. This life is not a one and done situation. I know that it's been hammered into us that since childhood that we have only this one life, and because this is our only chance to seek God's approval, we have to be good. It's our only chance to get into heaven. Otherwise, we go to hell. Actually, the truth is much worse than that. Much worse than what the traditional preachers try to tell us, try to beat into our heads. Remember, we are spiritual beings. We are more than the physical self that is walking around in this world. We are more than that. We are more than our bodies. We have a body, but we are not our body. And because of that, we are locked into the wheel of karma. So every harmful thing we do forces us to come back into another physical life again and again and again until we stop it, until we get it right. Think about that for a moment. Do you really want to come back and repeat some of those things that life puts you through over and over again? Do you really want to do that? So our perspective has to change from what we see here on the ground and rise above to see from the perspective of who we really are. You know, Caroline Myss talks about the skyscraper effect. She describes being in visiting a friend in New York, in Manhattan, and down on the ground floor, before she gets on the elevator, you know, there is New York the noisy, New York the smelly, New York the intensely packed population, pushing and shoving. It's a lot of chaos, a lot of unpleasantness on the ground floor, on the sidewalks of New York. But then she gets on the elevator and she rises up to the penthouse. And up in the penthouse, the noise is gone. The smells, as nasty as they are gone. The intensely packed population is not there. They're all down on the ground. And so what she experiences is a panoramic view of the city in all its beauty, all that it has to offer. And the sunsets, the magnificent sunsets, that is all there in the penthouse, way, way above the ground floor. And so that is a perspective from which we need to begin as spiritual warriors to view life. You know, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. So it's critical, it's critical to realize that forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about you. You. Forgiveness is about letting yourself off the hook. You know, another term for forgiveness is letting go. And by letting go of the anger, letting go of the resentment, letting go of that natural human emotion of wanting revenge, an eye for an eye, we benefit down here on the physical plane. We benefit from forgiveness. We benefit even on the spiritual plane, especially on the spiritual plane. But on the physical plane, remember, forgiveness can help reduce stress, anxiety, depression. Forgiveness can help improve the heart health. Oh yeah. And it can boost your immune system. Forgiveness can do that for you. Because unforgiveness, on the other hand, can create a state known as chronic stress, which has its own set of problems, such as hypertension, heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, arthritis. According to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, a national institution of health, national, so it ain't just in one city, it's all over the country, and they say over 61% of their patients, their cancer patients coming in for treatment, have unforgiveness issues. 61%. 61%. Cancer isn't the only problem. Now new research is telling us that, and this is even more disturbing, tells us that chronic stress, remember, that is often a result of unforgiveness. Chronic stress can shrink your brain. Get that? Chronic stress can shrink your brain. The parts of your brain that are involved in memory, the parts that regulate emotion, the parts that are largely responsible for decision making, the prefrontal cortex, the unforgiveness, chronic stress can shrink that very important part of your brain. That's what we got to deal with when it comes to the subject of forgiveness down here on the physical plane. Now on the spiritual plane, of course, forgiveness releases us from the situation so we don't have to repeat the situation. That forgiveness, in the world of spirit, our emotions and our thoughts create our life experiences. I know you don't see it so well here on the physical world, but that's what happens. Our thoughts and emotions create our life experiences. And if you have this unforgiveness issue over a situation, then what's going to happen is that in this life, actually, it's going to repeat. That situation is going to repeat. It'll be different people and different places and different situations, but the heart of it, the basis of it, when you get down right to the core of it, the essence of it, it is the same situation being repeated over and over and over again until you learn how to let it go, until you learn how to rise above it. So if you cannot forgive, you are locked into that situation. It's going to happen again. It's going to repeat and repeat and repeat. Now, as for those who have learned to forgive, they often look at me strangely when I start talking about self-forgiveness. They might even ignore me when I talk about self-forgiveness. They've already learned how to forgive. They've gotten past that. They feel pretty confident about their enlightened state, if you will. But are they truly clear? Are they? I don't know. I would say not, unless they've also learned to forgive themselves. We'll continue this after these messages. Whether you're building wealth or anticipating a major financial transaction, you can benefit greatly by consulting with a personal, professional, licensed financial advisor. A personal, professional, licensed financial advisor who focuses on you, who understands your unique concerns, who relates to your special goals, who cares about your success. Afroeconomics is a strategic financial program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. It was created by J.B. Bryan, CEO of J.B. Bryan Financial Group, an independent registered investment advisory firm licensed in Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, and Maryland. Being black does not condemn you to a life of financial uncertainty. Afroeconomics can show you the way out and up. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comment section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support. Now, whenever I mention forgiving yourself, some people look at me as though I'm from another planet. It's like, why should I forgive myself? Why? I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't hurt me. What happened to me was not my fault. That person did it to me. They're the blame. Yeah, it's true. It's usually you find yourself in a situation where someone outside yourself inflicted an injury upon you and you suffered from it and you suffered the consequence of it. But now that you've let it go and moved on, what's the big deal? Well, what you don't realize is that inside yourself, inside your mind, there is lurking something else. There is lurking self-blame. So while your surface conscious mind may deny that you've played a part in this situation that hurt you, beneath the surface, there is usually blame. Your mind might ask questions like, why didn't I see this coming? Could I have prevented this? Could I have headed it off? Could I have reacted differently instead of the way I did? I should have been stronger. I should have been more forthright. I should have been more aware, more observant, smarter. What did I do to deserve this? So while there's a need to forgive the other person who hurt you, you must also forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for attracting the situation. Forgive yourself for how you behaved in the situation. When you are injured, there is blame, self-blame. So you're not only emotionally bleeding from what that other person did to you, you got to contend with what you're doing to you internally. You are experiencing that feeling of guilt, that regret, maybe even shame. Yeah, shame. So if you can detach yourself from the overwhelming and negative emotions of it, you will be able to see that this experience was a lesson. There was a lesson there. There was a blessing there because of what it taught you. Remember, you are a spiritual warrior. You wouldn't be watching this if you weren't. You are a spiritual warrior, learning to rise in consciousness, learning to become who you really are, an individualized expression of infinite intelligence, a spiritual being, a powerful spiritual being who is having a human experience. And so you realize, at some point you're going to realize that every situation, no matter how ugly it may seem, gives you a gift. There's actually something in there for you, a gift. It's impossible to see it from a strictly human perspective, I know, but it's there. It's there, and you will eventually see it because you are more than human. You are more than human. So that situation has given you the opportunity to rise above yourself, above the primal emotion of your human body and what it naturally does. It's going to do it. Your body is like that. But you don't have to go along with it. You can rise above it. And when you rise above it to a higher level of consciousness, you see that this has given you another opportunity to be you. Admittedly, it sometimes takes years to get to the point where you can detach yourself enough after the situation has passed, to detach yourself enough to actually see what was happening. You actually see the value in the situation. It takes years. But during those years, you are suffering from guilt, which is a constant companion to us because of our religious upbringing. Guilt. The guilt of being sinful, a sinner. The guilt of being unworthy unless you do certain things. The guilt of being a human being who is lowly and racked with desires and emotions that are contrary to being quote unquote good. Guilt. Guilt is there, but guilt does not compare to the damage that comes with shame. You're ashamed of something you've done. You're ashamed. Yeah, you're ashamed that you did something, and shame makes you see yourself as worthless and a bad person. Shame. Shame makes you want to hide. When you feel like that, your body's going to follow the mental orders that your mind gives it. Your body is going to say, oh, okay, worthless person, bad person. I guess I need to assume that posture. I need to do what you're telling me you are and make you that way. Because the body will do that. It will follow orders. It doesn't have a choice. Your mind says you're that way, so the body says, okay, I'll do it. And so all of a sudden you're feeling worthless because your body is making you feel worthless. And if that is left unresolved, you can sink into things like depression, clinical depression, addiction because you're not worthwhile. The only way you can feel worthwhile is to get high. Aggression, striking out at others because you hate yourself. Shame makes you do that. Shame makes you want to be and do things that are not becoming of you. And even more than that, shame locks us down. Shame locks us down and attaches us to whatever event it was that we are ashamed of. Whether it's ashamed of being hooked up with the wrong person who mistreated you, or whether it's the shame of something you did when you were young and unwise. Shame. According to John Bradshaw, who wrote the book Healing the Shame That Binds Us, John Bradshaw said, it hooks you in. It hooks you into that thing that you want to hide from the world. Not only hide from the world, eventually you hide it from yourself. You push it down, down, down into your memory, into your mind, into your consciousness, until it's not there anymore. You don't have to look at it anymore. Down into the dark recesses of your mind. Shame. And once it gets pushed down into the dark recesses of your mind, then you don't have to deal with it anymore. It's gone. Except it's not. It's not gone. Because every now and then it sneaks up on you and causes you to act in ways that baffle you. Why did I do that? Yeah, it was that shame jumping up and controlling you. It's called the shadow self. The dark shadow self. So all the stuff that you push away, that you don't want to see anymore, you push it away until you can forget about it. You don't actually forget about it because it never goes away until you forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. You know, when I was in the corporate world, I had tremendous unforgiveness issues. And those unforgiveness issues brought a lot of chronic stress for me. You know, because back then, this is back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, before the world changed into the 2000s. Often I was the first and only professional in the company. Yeah, I was a so-called pioneer. Well, as a pioneer, I usually faced resistance and sometimes bad behavior from my colleagues because they felt that I didn't belong there. They felt that I didn't know my place. I did not belong in the same world as they were in. So they would do things sometimes. They would say things sometimes to let me know that they had not forgotten where I belong. I remember when I first started at the ad agency, Darcy McManus and Macias, which no longer exists, but they hired me to help save the Budweiser account. And I remember on my first day, they were giving me a tour of the agency. And they wanted to show me, they showed me, they took me to the window overlooking the park nearby, and they said, you see that courthouse over there? That's where the Dred Scott decision was made. Dred Scott, 100 years ago. Dred Scott, which said that you're still a slave no matter where you are. The Dred Scott decision. Well, thanks, fellows. I needed to know that. So I held a deep-seated anger, I must admit, and I was under constant pressure, not only to perform as a competitor, you know, as if we were on a one-on-one basis, but also as a black competitor. That is, not only are you going to perform as we all do, but you're going to perform above all of us. Because you don't belong here, so you got to prove it day after day after day. I remember that I was on constant alert at the possibility that somebody was going to say something or do something to let me know that I did not belong there. It was going to happen. And even when I thought I was relaxed, that trigger was still there, that stress, that alertness, inner alertness was still there. You know, I was angry at the world, but not only was I angry at the world, I was angry at myself for being black. Yeah, for being there and having to deal with it with my black skin. The anger made me calculating and aggressive and sometimes very unpleasant to be around because I was always angry. And because I was always angry, I never really enjoyed the success I was having. I was having a lot of success. I was winning awards. I was making a six-figure income. I was doing what I dreamed of doing, but I wasn't enjoying it. At least not while I was there. That appreciation didn't come until years later. And eventually that inner anger caught up with me. In 1999, when I had triple bypass heart surgery because my heart was so clogged up, I was in danger of my blood flow being totally blocked. anger, resentments, inner shame. Yeah, there was shame. Shame at being this black person in a white world. So I had to learn to forgive them for being the way they are, for their being afraid, because that was only fear acting out. Fear of me being there, fear, that unresolved fear of black people. But I had to forgive myself for being black in a white-dominated world where they were always trying to convince me that I was less than. I had to learn to forgive myself. I ended up writing an article entitled, "I Forgave Myself for Being Black." I remember I posted it on Facebook and wanted to share it, but Facebook blocked that because I was violating community laws, the laws of the Facebook community, because I was talking about race and discrimination and being black and the trials of being black. So they didn't want that spread all over Facebook. They can spread the other stuff, but they didn't want to talk about race. So it was blocked. And I remember doing my studies at Amron Mystery School, where I was studying to become a minister. We had a number of past life regressions. And one of my fellow students one day asked me, "Why did you decide to be black? I mean, you've shown how powerful you are in these classes, but gee whiz, out there in the world, why would you do that to yourself?" Frankly, I didn't have an answer at that time. But since that time, I have found an answer, actually a couple of days ago. The answer was very clear. I came into this world as a black man because I was looking as a spiritual being for the experience. For the experience. You see, one of the things about being spiritual is that you have knowledge of everything. All things are known to you. So why do you have to come back? Why do you have to come into this life? Well, all things are known to you, but from a detached perspective. You don't experience it yourself as spirit. And so in order to experience it yourself, which will give you wisdom, which will empower you as a spirit, make you stronger, make you wiser, in order to grow as a spirit, you must experience physical life. And so in experiencing physical life, there's no way around it. You're going to get hurt. And you're going to go through some stuff that needs to be forgiven. And you are going to have to be forgiven as well. That's why we're here, spiritual warriors. We're here to experience. We're here to actually help ourselves grow, but also to help others grow. You know? We're here to help others grow as well. So, we need to learn to forgive ourselves. We need to learn to forgive, let go of that self-blame. We need to let go of that shame so that we can grow, and in our growing we can help save the world. We must forgive the trespasses of others who have come against us. But at the same time, we must also forgive our trespasses against ourselves. We need to unhook ourselves as much as possible from that wheel of karma. What goes around comes around. Forgive yourself. Release that anger and resentment. Forgiveness is a step that I had to take. It's a process. It's a process. It's a process of clearing. It's a process of letting go. It's a process of growing. We all have to learn to forgive ourselves. We all have to release that hidden pain and understand that making those mistakes that you feel guilty about, that you feel shame about, undermine you. But the fact is, you're a human being. You're a human being. Letting go, forgiving of others, They know. When somebody hurts you, when somebody inflicts injury upon you, they usually move on, They want to get out of Dodge. They want to get out of Dodge because they don't want to have to see the pain that they've caused. Unless, of course, they're sadistic, and then they'll stay and want to inflict more. But most of the time, they want to get away. They want to avoid looking at what they've done. And so I say, let them go, let them go, let them forgive them, and let them go. Release the anger and the resentment. Remember, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It ain't going to happen. Let them go. It only hurts you if you hold on to it. But in addition to letting them go, let yourself go. Let yourself go. I know that's even harder. Let yourself go. Let the shame go. A couple of years ago, I was visiting one of my younger brothers. We were having a very interesting conversation, and I can remember apologizing to him for something that had happened when we were younger. Here we are, I'm in my 70s. He's in his 60s. And I'm apologizing to him for something that happened when I was in my 20s. 50 years ago, but I still felt it. It came up and I still felt shame over it because I felt I'd betrayed him. So I apologized, and he laughed. He laughed at me because he said, I let go of that years ago. Don't mean a thing anymore. That was minor. He says, after some of the stuff I've been through, that was minor. He says, and you need to let it go too. I mean, you're being too hard on yourself. Let it go. So I did. I let it go finally after 50 years, the shame of it. And frankly, I'm glad we had that conversation because several months later, he passed on. He released his physical body and moved into spirit. But we got to clear that out before he died. But I had to learn to forgive myself. He had already forgiven me. I had not. So remember, forgiveness is not a one-sided process. Not only must you release the anger and resentment against the other person, but you must release that hidden anger and shame and guilt against yourself. You must accept the fact that you are a human being. You're living on the physical plane. You are a human being, but in truth, you are a spiritual being. You have a body, but you are not your body. You are bigger than your body. You are more powerful than your body. But in your body, you make human mistakes. And holding on to that guilt, holding on to that shame, only gives your body orders to be destructive to itself. Because you are unworthy. Release it. Release it. You did a shameful thing, but you are not a shameful person. You are not a shameful being. You are not worthless. You are more than that. Much, much, much more than that. Learn to love yourself. Learn to love yourself. Release that harmful energy that is diminishing you and learn to love yourself. which is tough as a human being. I'll admit it. It's tough. I mean, I go through it. Yeah. I have a sign. I've created a sign that I have here hanging next to my computer. It says, remind yourself, Andrew, of how talented you are, and how resourceful you are, and how creative you are, and how intelligent you are, and how protected you are. God is always with you. You are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. God and you are one. God's mind is your mind now. Forgive yourself. Refusing to forgive yourself diminishes your light, diminishes the power that God expresses through you. That power is something that each and every one of us possesses. You know, Orson Swett Marden says, deep within man dwell those slumbering powers, power that would astonish him, that he never dreamed of possessing, forces that will revolutionize his life if aroused and put into action. Power, the powers that you have are yours naturally. Henry David Thoreau says, I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of man to elevate his life by a conscious endeavor. Consciousness. Forgive yourself. Release so your consciousness may expand and rise. We must forgive ourselves and let go of the shame that binds us, that holds us down, attaches us to past mistakes that we have buried deep inside of ourselves and forgotten. But they lurk there in the shadows, waiting to affect our thoughts, waiting to affect our actions, waiting to diminish us. Remember, Buddha said, we are what we think. All that we are arises within our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world our world. Forgive yourself for all those transgressions that happened before you knew any better. Forgive yourself for all those transgressions where you flared up because you were angry, often against people who didn't have anything to do with it. All those transgressions where you exploded because you were hurt. All those transgressions that leaped out because you wanted payback. I understand that. But it is time to let them go. It is time to rise in consciousness because this world is rising in consciousness. And you need to be on the leading edge of that because that is why you are here. You are a spiritual warrior. And you are here to help the world rise in consciousness to a higher level. Forgive yourself. Because when you forgive yourself, you pull back that curtain that hides your light. The light of your being. Remember, we live in a vibratory universe. So as you raise your vibration, your frequency, as you let your light shine, those around you will be affected, and their light will shine brighter because of your presence. It's like a tuning fork. You know, you strike the tuning fork and you hold it near another tuning fork and it begins to vibrate to the same frequency, to the same resonance. That's how powerful you are. You are so powerful. Remember the words of the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Which is in heaven. And remember, Jesus said, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. Let's close with prayer. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we're beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise, because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we're now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learn to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger, and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate your being here. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Remember, I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support.